So this is one of the most shocking things I have ever seen in my entire life. I'm a parent, man. I have 3 daughters. The safety of my wife and children are that's literally the most important thing to me in the entire world. Okay. And so when I read a thing like this story right here that dropped today about the number of convicted murderers who are in this country illegally because of changes to our border policy. Okay. We're not talking about like, oh, we don't know who they are, man. They're coming over the border. We don't know who they are, man. We're talking about we know exactly who they are. They're in the country, living here now because of, I don't even know honestly, I don't even know what policy to point at and who to blame. Well, I know who to blame because when I hear that 13,000 convicted murderers, people convicted of murder in other countries are living in the United States. Also 16,000 rapists also. So that's cool. 30,000 people. So visualize a sold out UFC event, okay? Or a sold out, NBA game. Okay? That's the number of convicted rapists that have entered the country due to the absolutely unfathomable decisions that have been made by the current administration as it relates to immigration. It's insane. It is insane. It's indefensible. It is insane. And then picture another sold out show. That's the number of people who've been convicted of murder overseas that are living in this country. All right, so we're going to talk about that right now. First, I got to tell you about PrizePicks again, because all I'm going to do is I'm just going to play the game, you guys. PrizePicks is the best daily fantasy game of all time. I really wish I would have thought of it when I was in this business. Now, aside from it being very easy to get your money in and out, getting great payouts for games that you win, but look at this. All you do is you pick a statistic with a specific athlete that you think they're going to get more or less than. And so, since this is a UFC video, we're going to do UFC. So what do you guys think? You guys think that Benoit Saint-Denis is going to do more or less than 50 significant strikes against Renato Moicano? I am going to go with more. And I still think that Renato Moicano is going to win. Okay? And what about Cutelaba? You think he's going to get more or less than 30 and a half significant strikes? I'm going more. And look at that. See over here? That's my game, okay? If both these guys get more than their stat line, then I'm going to win $60 on a $20 game entry. You have to be careful about how you say things because this is not sports betting. This is daily fantasy. And then, boom, we submit our lineup, and it's a done deal. Look at that, dude. The simplest game in the entire world. So you should get on and start playing right now. And the way that you can do that is by going to the link in the description and clicking on it. And when you sign up, you use Jesse on Fire as your promo code. And then once you put $5 in play, you're going to get a free $50 put into your account. So rock and roll, get on it right now and look around or tell me how you did. Email me your results because I am curious if I am doing as well as anybody else. Let's get into it. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. It's very helpful to the channel. And also share this video if you want to help your boy out as I try to grow the channel in a time where, if you're covering the big guy, not a lot of algorithmic support, if that makes any sense. But anyway, so let's jump into this thing. Okay, so this is, no matter what this is from Michael Schellenberger. Okay, no matter what your politics, these new numbers are shocking. Of the 7 million migrants that ICE released while their cases are being processed, 663,000 of them have criminal histories. 13,000 were convicted of homicide. 16,000 of sexual assault, and 1,845 face homicide charges. Okay. Why do we control the border again? What's the purpose of having a border? What's the reason that you try to understand who is coming into the country and try to have, reasonable policies around that? Why do we do that again? Oh, right. To avoid to avoid 663,000 criminals getting into the country. And, it's like the conversation about gun control. It's like, oh, we need, better gun control policies because every time there's some kind of like criminal act, so did that guy buy a gun through like a gun shop? He went to a gun shop, bought the gun? They're like, well, no, he didn't. You're all, okay. So how would that gun law have affected this incident that you're using as cannon fodder to promote your ideas? Well, I'm not sure. Well, no, the answer is it wouldn't have. Okay, that's the answer. because criminals are not buying guns legally. So what are we talking about, right? And so in this case, they've been released into the interior, awaiting their hearings. All right, well, I know a lot of people convicted of murder in third world countries that are super likely to come to their court date and really try to argue to get, permanent citizenship. Said no one ever. Like, how this, okay, here's what we're going to do, actually. We're going to go through two different articles about this, okay? We're going to go through two different articles so you can hear the two ways this has been spun, okay? This one is very favorable to conservatives. The other one is as favorable as you can be to the Biden and Kamala Harris administration. And I want you to actually listen to these two. Just understand, they're both being spun as negative against the other side as they possibly can. And just listen to them, right? And which one sounds more convincing? You know what I mean? So this one, like I said, this one's favorable to Trump. So 13,000 murderers roam free thanks to the Biden-Harris migrant crime wave. Yep. So the Department of Homeland Security confirmed today that under the immigration policies of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, there are over 13,000 convicted illegal immigrant murderers roaming the United States free, along with 15,000 illegal immigrants convicted of sexual assault. If anything, these numbers underestimate the size of the violently criminal illegal immigrant population Biden and Harris has unleashed on the country. Yeah, for sure. What about the ones we don't even know about? The numbers come from a letter Tony Gonzalez written to the U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement. Gonzalez had written asking to identify the number of convicted criminals on ICE's non-detained docket. Migrants on ICE's non-detained docket would include those Biden paroled into the country after illegally crossing the southern border, like Laken Riley's alleged murderer, Jose Ibarra, as well as migrants flown to the U.S. through Biden's parole program for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. What? Migrants flown to the U.S. through Biden's parole program. What is that? Oh my God. All right. Well, Biden's parole program. Okay. So, the Biden administration's humanitarian parole program for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans. Okay. On January 5th, 2023, the Biden administration announced its intent to provide safe and orderly pathways to the United States for up to 30,000 nationals of Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela. Okay, get more voters. Shocker. The new program, formerly known as the Processes for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, allows certain people from these four countries who have a sponsor in the U.S. and who pass a background check to come to the U.S. for a period of 2 years to live and work lawfully using a legal mechanism known as humanitarian parole. Okay? So if they have to pass a background check, what are we talking about? Why are they murderers? Okay. I'm sorry. It's because they do not the criminal immigrant. Okay. If an illegal immigrant is convicted of murder or sexual assault in their home country and then come here under the Biden and Harris catch and release policy, but they have not yet been convicted of killing or raping anyone here in the U.S. yet, they would not be included in this data. What? By law, ICE is required to deport all illegal immigrants, but it is the Biden-Harris policy not to deport illegal immigrants unless they've committed a violent crime. Even then, many Democratic-controlled jurisdictions do not cooperate with ICE on even violent illegal immigration cases, a problem Leichner mentions in his letter. These sanctuary cities send every single one of these people. Like, don't deport them. Just send them to a sanctuary city and be like, you deal with them then. Okay? You deal with them. If you want the votes, you can deal with the problems. Take the votes. And then clean up the bodies. You selfish, corrupt. When former President Donald Trump promises voters he will begin mass deportations if elected, it is these 425,431 criminal illegal immigrants that he's talking about. A vote for Trump is a vote to deport these criminal illegal immigrants. He will force Democratic cities to cooperate with ICE to do so. A vote for Harris to keep. Okay, so you guys get the point, right? Let's hear the best they got, dude. Let's hear the absolute best they got. This is NBC's spin on this story. More than 13,000 immigrants convicted of homicide here or abroad are living freely in the U.S., ICE says. 2 law enforcement officials familiar with the data said many of the migrants on the ICE list crossed into the U.S. under previous administrations. That's the subtext, okay? So the Kamala Harris and Biden administration got rid of the deportations, okay? The Democratic Party is providing sanctuary cities for illegal immigrants who are, in this case, criminals. And this is how these guys present this information. Two law enforcement officials, and listen to how this is written. Listen to how this is written. 2 law enforcement officials familiar with the data said many of the migrants on the ICE list crossed into the U.S. under previous administrations. You want to know what that is? That's professional spin disinformation horseshit. Does it say 2 law enforcement officials who are actively a part of what we're talking about? No. You're talking 2 law enforcement officials. So that could be 2 corrupt members of the FBI or 2, hardcore left-wing whatever that are the only requirement for them to fit this into this sentence right here is they are law enforcement officials. That gives them no credibility as far as I'm concerned. But nonetheless, even if this is true, crossing into the U.S. under previous administrations, okay, cool. Well, guess what? The reason they're still here is because this administration got rid of the deportations. But the fact that that's their first sentence is so transparent and embarrassing. But it continues, right? More than 13,000 immigrants convicted of homicide either in the United States or abroad are living freely in the U.S. outside of immigration and customs enforcement detention, according to the data. The immigrants are part of ICE's non-detained docket, meaning the agency has some information on the immigrants and they have pending immigration cases in the U.S., but they are not currently in detention, either because they are not prioritized for detention or because ICE cannot find them. Oh, shocker. You mean the convicted murderers? They can't find them? Harris makes first trip to the U.S. southern border in 3 years. Wow. That's great. What borders are. Acting ICE Director PJ Licklider sent the data, yada, yada. Okay. It is not clear. This is it. Listen to this spin, dude. It is not clear when the first migrant of the 13,000 crossed into the U.S. 2 law enforcement officials familiar with the data told NBC News. So that can be any law enforcement official in the world. Okay, that is not anyone remotely if this was someone who was involved in this law enforcement effort, they would say that. They're just saying this is some kind of law enforcement official. Okay. It's not clear when the first migrant of the 13,000 crossed into the U.S. 2 law enforcement officials familiar with the data told NBC News many of the migrants on ICE's including serious criminals, crossed into the U.S. under previous administrations, including that of former President Donald Trump. Including that. Oh, so it sounds like it's probably a really big percentage of them, What this says basically is they think they could prove that at least 1 or 2, came in. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. NBC is Disney. This is a joke. This coverage. During a campaign stop in Michigan on Friday, Trump used the data to criticize Vice President Kamala Harris for current immigration policies. Yeah. I can finally look at them and say, I told you so, to the fake news, Trump said. These are hard, tough, vicious criminals that are free to roam in this country. The White House has yet to comment on the data. One official told NBC News the release of the data came as a surprise to the White House. Yeah, I would imagine it did. The 13,099 immigrants convicted of homicide living in the U.S. may have never had contact with ICE, the 2 law enforcement officials said. Some may have crossed the border and then been released because Border Patrol lacks information on their criminal history. In many cases, the U.S. has not identified someone's criminal conviction until after they cross into the country. In other cases, migrants convicted of crimes may be released by state and local officials after they serve their time without ICE being notified. as is policy by many sanctuary cities. Oh, I forgot. So sanctuary cities, that's like a big, like Republican policy, right? Right? ICE then has to locate the person after release in order to detain and deport them. Nice. Good luck with that. You know, that seems like a really realistic thing that's going to happen. You know, the two law enforcement officials, I can't believe that they are using this. Like the two law enforcement officials, this is insane. These are not law enforcement officials that are even moderately involved in this. The two law enforcement officials said ICE prioritizes migrants who have been convicted of serious crimes like homicide for arrest. Oh, where are they at then? But the agency's limited resources limit how many they can locate and arrest. There are currently more than 7.5 million immigrants on ICE's non-detained docket, meaning they have pending immigration cases but are not currently in detention. More local jurisdictions are cooperating and starting to rethink their sanctuary policies in light of increased attention on crimes committed by migrants. Shocker, dude. Almost like, you know, when propaganda becomes reality, you have to rethink your positions on things. Like, as an example, if you were, if you were heavy on the kids in cages narrative, oh my God, kids in cages, it's just barbaric. It's barbaric, the kids in cages. Boo, 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 boo. Let's just unwind anything Trump did. You know, let's just get rid of it, and then just see what happens. Well, this is what happens. Okay? This is what happens. And I just had a conversation with a person who is a Democrat voter, who's a smart person. And I just was curious. Like, I really was curious. I'm like, let me see what because basically I can go, just to it's, someone very close in my life. So it's someone like I can talk to them about this kind of stuff anytime I want. And it's literally just like what are they going to say about this? Like, is there a world where they can convince themselves that this is not their fault? You know what I mean? Like, is there a world where they actually believe that this is not the direct responsibility of the, Biden and Harris administration? And rest assured, it's Trump's fault somehow, because Trump didn't support the bipartisan border bill, whatever this talking point nonsensical bullshit that they're throwing out there. Okay. The Border Patrol, the U.S. Border Patrol, all the people responsible for, controlling the border are polling at 100% for Trump. Ask any of them. They will eat the Biden and Harris administration alive if you ask them a single question about the border and how the two administrations have impacted. It really it's honestly so bad that it makes you wonder why. Like, what are they doing? Is this one of those George Soros things, like invade the country with, lots of criminals, illegals to just weaken the country and make it, less strong, more malleable, implement globalism, all that stuff? I'm expecting this video to get suppressed. I just want everyone to know that. Anyway, love you guys. Bye-bye.